I know exactly how the title sounds, so just go ahead and judge me. I probably deserve it. I'm 25, and last week I reconnected with my 67-year-old former tutor, only to make a mistake that is currently eating me alive. I'm not here to brag or to look for high fives from the internet. I'm here because the weight of what happened is starting to feel like a physical pressure in my chest, and I have no one else to tell. 10 years ago, she was just a woman who helped me pass my high school exams. Back then, she was a figure of authority, someone I respected but never really saw as a person with her own life. After I graduated, we completely lost touch. Life moved fast. I went to college, started my career, and her name became a distant memory in the back of my mind. However, her face randomly popped up in my People You May Know section last Tuesday, so I did what any curious person would do. I clicked. She looked exactly the same, just a bit more weathered around the eyes. On a whim, I sent a quick, "How have you been?" message, thinking I'd get a polite, "I'm good" back. Instead, that innocent text resulted in a long reply and an invitation to her place for lunch. Walking into that house was surreal. It felt like stepping into a time capsule. The smell of old books and expensive tea was exactly as I remembered it from when I was 15. She was still so elegant, so put together. Yet as we sat down to eat, I quickly realized her life wasn't as full as it looked from the outside. We talked for hours. We laughed about my old chemistry struggles. We reminisced about the neighborhood. Consequently, the formal teacher-student barrier started to dissolve. As the afternoon stretched on, the conversation turned more personal. I found out her husband works as a consultant in another city. He's only home once a month, sometimes less. She spends almost every waking hour in that massive, quiet house in total isolation. I could feel this heavy, quiet loneliness radiating off her like heat from a radiator. But I ignored the red flags because we were having such a genuine connection. The afternoon flew by. Eventually, it was time to leave. The sun was starting to set, casting these long, orange shadows across the hallway. We stood by the door. We hugged. It should have been a normal, "good to see you" embrace. But as I tried to initiate the pull away, her grip tightened. She didn't let go. She held on for 3 seconds too long. Then 5. The air in that hallway suddenly turned thick enough to choke on. I looked down at her, and in a moment of pure, unexplainable impulse, the kind of impulse that bypasses your brain entirely, I leaned in. I kissed her. It was brief. It was soft. Therefore, my brain went into a full-scale 5-alarm panic the second our lips touched. I tried to back up, stammering an apology, yet she didn't look offended. She didn't look shocked. She just whispered that it was okay and gently took my hand, leading me back toward the bedroom. I kept telling myself this was a disaster. I knew I should walk out that door and never look back. I knew the age gap was a mountain I shouldn't try to climb. Nevertheless, my feet wouldn't move. It was like I was watching myself in a movie, unable to shout at the screen to stop. We slept together. It wasn't some dirty encounter like you see in the movies or read about in the darker corners of this site. It was raw. It was deeply emotional. It felt like two people who hadn't been touched with genuine, focused longing in a decade were finally being seen. There was a vulnerability in that room that I've never experienced with someone my own age. It wasn't about the act. It was about the hunger for connection. Afterward, we just laid there in the quiet. No music, no phones, just the sound of the house settling. We talked with a level of honesty that usually takes years to build. We agreed that what happened was just a shared moment, a glitch in the timeline, and that guilt didn't belong in that room. That was a lie. I left that evening feeling like a ghost because of her marriage and the way we completely blurred the lines of our past. I've been spinning out ever since. Every time I close my eyes, I see the hallway. I see the bookshelf. I see her. I'm 25. I have my whole life ahead of me. Yet I feel like I've tied myself to a secret that's going to drown me. She called me yesterday afternoon. My phone vibrated on the desk, and I just stared at it for a full minute before answering. She invited me back for dinner this weekend. She sounded so normal, so calm. I completely folded. I made up some pathetic, rambling excuse about being slammed at work and hung up the phone as fast as I could. Resultantly, I'm now stuck in this limbo. I'm sitting here realizing I can never go back to that house. I can't be the guy who helps someone cheat, regardless of how lonely they are. But I can't stop thinking about the look in her eyes when I left. I'm paralyzed by the guilt of the past and the fear of the future. I'm not here to brag. I'm not here for a nice story. I'm here because I have no one else to tell, and the silence in my own apartment is starting to feel a lot like the silence in her house. I've reconnected with the past, and it turns out the past is a lot heavier than I remembered. Am I a terrible person? Should I just ghost her and let the memory fade? Or do I owe her a real conversation? I honestly don't know anymore. I just know that the people you may know section is something I'm never clicking on again. Let's be real for a second. This isn't your typical scandal story. Most people see a 42-year age gap and immediately want to grab a pitchfork. But if you look closer, this is actually a masterclass in the loneliness epidemic. The narrator is 25. He's at that age where life is moving a mile a minute, yet he's clearly looking for some kind of grounding. Then you have the tutor. She's 67, living in a beautiful home, consequently having everything she needs on paper, except for a husband who is actually there. She's elegant and put together, therefore we assume she's fine. But as we saw, the silence in that house was clearly deafening. Was this a mistake? Strictly speaking, yes. She's married. He's a former student. That is a boundary that was crossed with a sledgehammer. However, does that make them bad people or just incredibly starved for human connection? The narrator is currently drowning in guilt, so he's doing what most people do when they're scared. He's ghosting. He made up an excuse, he hung up, and now he's hiding. Nevertheless, ghosting a 67-year-old woman you've known for a decade feels just as wrong as the act itself. Think about the story lens here. Most people focus on the cheating aspect, but the real tragedy is the isolation. Two people, separated by 40 years, found a bridge through their shared loneliness. The problem is, that bridge was built on a foundation that was already crumbling. So here is the last dab for the audience. If you were in his shoes, would you go back? Or is a shared moment something that should stay buried in that house forever? Some of you are going to say he needs to tell the husband. Others will say he should never have sent that first friend request. Regardless of where you stand, one thing is certain, that people you may know button is a lot more dangerous than we think. Drop your thoughts below. Is he a jerk? Or is he just a guy caught in a very complicated reality? I'll be in the comments reading your takes.